Before I start today's video, I just wanted to say that I'm having a giveaway. I'm giving away 2 free copies of Assassin's Creed Rogue, so if you don't have it and you want to play it, just click on the link in the description, sign up for the giveaway. There's no requirement. I don't need you to like, subscribe, or follow me on any socials. I just thought I'd do that. Going forward, for any game series that I analyze, I'll probably do the same. So, yeah. On this channel already, I've discussed why I think the North Atlantic is extremely eerie, creepy, weird, pretty much any adjective that you can use for it. Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel. And while we can debate if Ubisoft did this with intention or if it's just my personal opinion, I think there is a place in Assassin's Creed Rogue that genuinely is meant to be the way it is and is meant as a larger psychological reflection of what's going on with Shay. Fort Arsenal is Shay's headquarters, and at large, the Templars' headquarters in New York. When I first played this game back in 2014, I thought Fort Arsenal was without a doubt the coolest place in the game itself. I liked that you owned a mansion, I loved the aesthetic, I loved the size of the property, I loved how convenient it was with being sort of in the middle of New York. Overall, I just thought it was really cool. But as I've matured and I've done my replaying of Assassin's Creed Rogue, I think that at large, it is a reflection of the psychological loneliness that Shay is going through. As I took a walk around Fort Arsenal, I realized there wasn't anybody there. There was very little noise except the waves crashing. There wasn't any guards. There wasn't any other Templar cronies hanging around. It was just you. When walking around, you're also given this very melancholic, reflective music. It really does make you feel like Shay is alone. And I believe that this was intentional. The plot of Assassin's Creed Rogue is Shay hunting down his former assassin friends. He joined the Templars largely out of necessity because they had the abilities to hunt down the assassins who were actively trying to destroy the world. Betrayal of the Brotherhood is a major component to Shay's character arc. While it's impossible for us to see the inside of Shay's brain and to know exactly what he's thinking, we can imagine that the fact that he had betrayed his friends does weigh prevalent in his mind. Obviously, he knows that saving the world is the greater good, and what he is doing is a necessity. But the toll that it takes on his mental health, we don't have any way of knowing exactly how much it did. There are, of course, subtle hints throughout the game that show how he feels. You can look at his face after he kills Hope. He is extremely distraught, and he wishes he didn't have to do what he did. With Liam, it's exactly the same. And while Shay saves Achilles in hopes of preventing any more assassins from getting the same idea, I think a major factor is the guilt he felt for destroying his friends. Shay largely used the Templars as a vehicle to help the greater good, and of course as we progress we see that he becomes more devout in his Templar beliefs, but by the end of the game he has no one left. Obviously, he has the Templars, but he doesn't have any personal connection with anybody. I mean, the most you could assume is probably Gist because he spends the most time with them. But after the game, they go their separate ways, and he chases the damn box. What I'm getting at is while Shay is dealing with the terrible feeling of guilt that's constantly hanging over his head, he also feels lonely. And this is where Fort Arsenal becomes more than just a place, it becomes almost a reflection, a mirror of some sorts. It reflects who he is in that moment. And while we can only speculate what happens in the years between the ending of Rogue and the assassination of Arno's father, we have to imagine that he is solely focused on the Templar Order for the fact that without it, he is just depressed and alone. When I walk through Fort Arsenal now, I don't feel this sense of wonderment and that it's massive and a cool, badass Templar base. Rather, I see it as a sad reflection of a man who is tormented constantly by mental anguish. And I believe truly that Ubisoft did this intentionally. I think of other headquarters that were in this era. AC4 had the Great Inagua, which was full and had life, and you could upgrade it. You could have people there at taverns. Hell, even your manor had hookers, who if you chased, you could sleep with, which is kinda badass. AC3 had the Davenport homestead, which started dilapidated, but as the game progressed, it became more lifelike, and there were people there, and you developed a community and a sense of purpose, and you could feel that it was a community based around love, protection, and trust. And while we can argue that there was nothing added to Fort Arsenal because Ubisoft was under major time constraints and the budget wasn't there, I would counter that point with the fact that the majority of the properties within Assassin's Creed Rogue are just retextures of Assassin's Creed 4. There's nothing really new or innovative that's added to the game, and it's obvious that the game was pumped out with the purpose of selling more copies so that shareholders could make more money. I'm not very well versed in game development or programming, but for anybody who's watching that might be, please let me know if it's an easy thing to do to add these retextured concepts of base development to Fort Arsenal. But since I don't have the information to prove that it is a difficult thing to do, I'm going to assume that Ubisoft made a thematic choice here. And with that, they did an excellent job. And even if it was by accident, it is a perfect reflection of who Shay is. Well, maybe not so much who he is, but what his psychological profile looks like during this game. I know that earlier in the game, you spend a little bit of time at the Davenport homestead, and I think it does a good job at showing how Shay feels like the outcast there. And while Shay isn't the outcast with the Templar Order, the gravity of Fort Arsenal feels much more intense, almost suffocating, if that's really a proper word to describe it. I know this video isn't as long as my other two that I put out so far, and I'm sorry. I just don't think there's that much to chew on in terms of Fort Arsenal that can make it extremely interesting, and I don't want to waste anybody's time by making it a 20-minute video that talks pretty much around the same points. If you haven't spent time walking around and examining Fort Arsenal, I would recommend it. I think it's a fun little activity to do. It doesn't take long. And if you haven't played Assassin's Creed Rogue, please don't hesitate to enter the giveaway. Anybody's welcome. I think it is such a good game, and I think anybody should be able to have the opportunity to play it. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video. I appreciate it.